Hi everyone, Miss Andronicus here, and today we are looking at circles. So just to recap parts of the circle, around the outside we have the circumference. From one side of the circumference through the center to the other side is the diameter, and from the center of the circle to the circumference is the radius. When we talk about circles, anything to do with calculating with circles, we use the Greek letter pi, which approximately stands for represents around 3.142. Use your calculator button for pi when calculating with it. Please take a moment to look at your calculator and find where that button is right now, because pi actually has an infinite number of decimals and you are far more accurate with your calculations when you use the button. Please never, never, never just type in 3.142 or 3.14. Always ensure you use the button pi. Circumference of a circle. So when we're calculating the circumference of a circle, we're talking about the perimeter. And you might use circumference equals pi d, or you might use circumference equals 2 pi r. Doesn't matter really which one you use, as long as you know that that's pi multiplied by the diameter, or 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by the radius. Well, you can see from the diagram above, the diameter is essentially like 2 radii connected together back to back. So it makes sense that it's either 2 times the radius or just the diameter. So let's have a look at this example below. Whatever formula you use, make sure you start by writing it down, as so. And then you consider what information has the question actually given you. So if we know that we are using a formula that requires the diameter, we need to consider what has the question told us. The question here is labeling the radius as 7 meters. So we need to consider that when we go to complete our formulae and replace the formulae, we need to be aware that the diameter is 2 times the radius. So we put that in there as so. Then we go ahead and calculate. So one of the answers is that it's 14 pi, and calculated is 43.98 meters. Now remember, circumference is one-dimensional, so it's just meters. To check that, it should be just over 3 times what 14 is, what the diameter is. So that's a way that you can check that you are accurate. Let's have a look at the next example. Here we have a semicircle. We still need to get the circumference of this semicircle. So we start with the formulae again, and then we replace the formulae. As you can see, the question has given us the diameter this time, so we replace it all there and we calculate that answer, which is 31.42 if we round it, centimeters. Now, this is for an entire circle. Clearly, we only have a semicircle. So we need to then take that answer and divide it by 2 in order to get the answer for the semicircle. Once we get that answer, we also need to consider the fact that we have just worked out this part of the circumference. Because we want the perimeter of the whole shape, we also need to add on this last 10 centimeters across the middle there, or across the bottom of that shape. So we need to add those 10 centimeters on, and there we have our answer. The next example. Here we have a quarter of a circle, but we still need to get the circumference. So it doesn't matter what portion of the circle that we require, we still need to work with the same formulae as if we have the entire circle, but we need to say, okay, this is a 90-degree angle, therefore I know we have only a quarter of the circumference. So whatever that answer is, we end up having to divide it by 4. So you replace the formulae and work that answer through. And don't get tricked, of course, because this 20 is the radius, this is the diameter. we needed to make sure that we used the correct number, and now we have that quarter of a circle. We know that this side is 20 centimeters, that's a radius. We know this must be a radius as well, so that must be 20 centimeters. So whatever this answer is, we also then need to add on those two other sides. Then we get our answer, and that's 71.42 centimeters. I'm going to give you a moment to try this one now. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly talk through the answers to that. I started with the formulae of the whole circle, replaced the formulae for the whole circle, and then got that answer. As you can see on the calculator, I would have had a much longer answer than just 47.12. I leave it on the calculator to keep calculating with it, but in my workings I have just to 2 decimal places is fine. I then divided by 4 and multiplied by 3 because I have 3 quarters of that circle. So divided it into quarters, then I had 3 of them. Then I got 35.34, etc. Then I added the other 2 sides that you can see exposed here, and there's my final answer, 50.34. I only round at the end my final answer. Moving on to areas or area of circles. The formula for area of a circle is pi r squared. Okay, I'm going to start going through the same examples. Pause the video each time to give it a go. And there's the answer for the first one. You've got the radius in the question. And remember, the units for area is always squared. Try the next one. And there's the answer for that one. So remember, the question's given you the diameter. You need to divide that by 2 to get 5 squared in that second row of working. Then, once you get that answer, you need to divide everything by 2 because it is a semicircle, and there is your answer in centimeters squared, of course. Example number 3. Let's give this one a go. And there's my answer. So pi times 20 squared, and then I take that answer and divide it by 4 because I have a quarter of the circle. Okay, at this point I want you to give these 2 a go on your own. Please pause the video now. And here are the answers. So for the first one, once again, worked out the area of the entire circle, divided it by 4, and then multiplied it by 3 for the 3 quarters, and there is the answer in centimeters squared. I've also given you the answer in pi form. Sometimes questions will ask you for the answer in pi form. It means that you need to give whatever the answer is calculated as much as possible without actually calculating the value for pi. So in this case, it would be 42 3/16 pi. For this second example here, we've got 2 shapes put together, so they're composite shapes now. So area number 1, I've labeled the semicircle as number 1, so it's pi r squared divided by 2, replaced, worked out. Once again, I've left it also in pi form as well because it becomes a little bit easier later to calculate, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. Okay, then the area of the rectangle, then I need to of course add it together here. So area of the first shape plus the second shape. Now when I go and re-enter this into my calculator, instead of using the rounded version, which sometimes can be a bit inaccurate if I then need it for further calculations, this is where I can use the pi version of the calculation and add it to the 84 centimeters squared of the area of the second shape. This is what gets me to this point, and then of course I only round when I come to the very last answer in my multi-step problems. Please remember that. Please keep that in mind because sometimes if you round all the way through, you can be out by quite a bit and that will lose you marks in an exam. Okay, give it a go. Thanks, guys.